The first thing that hit him was the vibration on her wrist, buzzing softly in the dark like a secret that couldn't stay quiet. Ethan lay awake beside Laura, staring at the ceiling while the rain tapped against the bedroom window. He hadn't been sleeping anyway. He'd been counting the seconds between her breaths, the small pauses where it felt like she was thinking about something else, someone else. When her smartwatch lit up, the glow briefly touching her cheek, his stomach tightened before his mind could catch up. She didn't move. The watch buzzed again, then stopped. Ethan turned his head slowly, careful not to disturb her. Laura's phone sat dead on the nightstand, exactly where she'd left it earlier when she'd sighed and said, "Battery's gone. I'll charge it in the morning." He remembered the way she'd said it too quickly, already turning away. The watch screen dimmed, but not before he saw a name flash across it. Not a contact he recognized. Not a coworker. Just a first name, casual, familiar, followed by 3 dots that meant someone was typing. His chest felt hollow, like the air had been scooped out of him. He told himself not to look. He told himself it was nothing. People got messages all the time. But the watch buzzed again, longer this time, and Laura shifted slightly in her sleep, pulling the blanket closer to her chin. The movement felt instinctive, protective. Ethan reached out before he could stop himself. He lifted her wrist just enough to see the screen again. His hands were steady in a way that scared him. He expected panic, maybe guilt. Instead, there was a quiet focus, the kind that came when something inside you already knew the answer and just needed proof. The message preview was short. "Did you get home safe?" His heart began to pound, each beat loud in his ears. He lowered her arm carefully, easing it back onto the mattress. Laura didn't wake. She never did when it mattered, he thought bitterly. She slept through storms, through alarms, through the slow collapse of things she insisted were fine. Ethan rolled onto his back and stared at the ceiling again. The room felt smaller now, the walls inching closer with every breath. He replayed the evening in his head. Laura coming home later than usual, smelling faintly like someone else's cologne. Her laugh when he asked if traffic had been bad. The way she'd avoided his eyes when she kissed him goodnight. "You're tired," he'd told himself. "You're imagining things." The watch buzzed again. This time, Laura stirred more noticeably, her fingers twitching. Ethan held his breath. She murmured something unintelligible, then went still. The watch went dark. He lay there until the rain slowed and his thoughts tangled into something sharp and unbearable. When morning came, he felt like he hadn't slept at all. Laura was already awake when he opened his eyes, sitting on the edge of the bed scrolling through her phone, now fully charged. She smiled when she noticed him watching. "Morning," she said softly. "Morning," he replied, his voice rough. She leaned down to kiss his forehead, a gesture that used to feel comforting. Now it felt like a test he didn't know how to pass. Ethan smelled her shampoo, the same one she'd used for years, and wondered when something familiar had started to feel foreign. "You were out late," he said, keeping his tone casual. She shrugged. "Work ran long. You know how it is." He nodded, though he didn't know how it was anymore. He knew how it used to be. That felt like a lifetime ago. Over breakfast, Laura talked about a meeting next week, about a coworker who wouldn't stop complaining, about nothing at all. Ethan listened, answering when necessary, watching her hands as she gestured. The smartwatch sat snug against her wrist, dark and silent. He wondered how many messages lived inside it, waiting. When she left for work, she kissed him again, lingering just a second longer than usual. "Love you," she said. "Love you too," he answered automatically. The door closed behind her, and the house fell quiet. Ethan stood in the kitchen long after her car pulled away. The coffee on the counter had gone cold. He stared at the empty space where she'd been, trying to convince himself he was overreacting. One message didn't mean betrayal. People checked in on each other. Friends asked if you got home safe. But the question kept circling back. Why not text her phone? Why reach her through the watch? He spent the day drifting between tasks, unable to focus. Every sound made him tense. By the time Laura came home that evening, he'd rehearsed a dozen different ways to ask her about it, and discarded every one. She came in smiling, kicking off her shoes, telling him about her day. Ethan noticed she'd changed her watch band. The old one lay discarded on the dresser, replaced with a sleeker black strap. "New band?" he asked. "Oh," she said, glancing at her wrist. "Yeah, the other one was bothering me." He nodded, though the explanation felt thin. That night, Laura showered while Ethan lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling again. Steam curled out of the bathroom, carrying the sound of water and the faint echo of her humming. Her smartwatch lay on the nightstand beside him, charging. He stared at it for a long time. He told himself not to touch it. He told himself crossing that line would change everything. But hadn't everything already changed? The screen lit up as another notification came through. His hand moved without permission. This time, the message preview was longer. Too long to ignore. Last night felt different. I keep replaying it. Ethan's vision blurred. His mouth went dry. He didn't read further. He didn't need to. When Laura came out of the bathroom, towel wrapped around her hair, she froze when she saw the watch in his hand. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then she sighed, a sound heavy with exhaustion rather than surprise, and said, "I was going to tell you." The words landed like a quiet explosion. Ethan looked at her, really looked at her, and realized how far apart they already were. "Tell me what?" he asked, even though the answer was already breaking him. She stood there barefoot on the carpet, arms crossed tightly over her chest, water dripping from her hair onto the floor. For the first time in years, Laura looked unsure of herself in a way that wasn't charming or thoughtful. It was raw, exposed. Ethan set the watch back on the nightstand slowly, like it might shatter if he moved too fast. His hands were trembling now. There was no point pretending otherwise. "Tell me everything," he said. Laura's eyes flicked toward the door, then back to him. She sat on the edge of the bed, shoulders slumping. It wasn't supposed to turn into this. Those words hit him harder than any confession could have. Not "I'm sorry." Not "I made a mistake." Just that quiet admission that something had been growing without him. "How long?" he asked. She hesitated, chewing on her lip. "A few months." Ethan laughed once, sharp and humorless. "A few months," he repeated. "You say that like it's nothing." "It wasn't planned," she said quickly. "It just happened. We started talking. I felt seen again." Seen. The word echoed painfully in his head. "So I stopped seeing you?" he asked. "Is that what you're saying?" Laura shook her head, tears forming. "No. I love you. I just felt invisible. Like we were roommates, not partners." Ethan stood up, the room spinning slightly. "You never said you felt that way." "I didn't know how," she whispered. And then it was easier not to. Easier. Another small word that carried too much weight. He paced the room, running a hand through his hair. Memories crowded in, moments he'd brushed off. Late nights. Changed passwords. The way she angled her phone away from him. The smartwatch suddenly felt like a cruel joke, the one thing she couldn't hide. "Who is he?" Ethan asked. She gave him the name. It sounded ordinary. That somehow made it worse. "Do you love him?" he asked quietly. Laura's silence stretched on, filling every corner of the room. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely audible. "I don't know." That was the moment something inside Ethan cracked. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just a slow, sinking realization that the life he thought he was living had already slipped away. "I need air," he said. He grabbed his jacket and stepped outside, the cool night air biting against his skin. He walked without direction, the neighborhood lights blurring together. Every step felt heavy. He thought about the years they'd built together, the small rituals, the plans that now felt like ghosts. When he came back, Laura was sitting on the couch, knees pulled to her chest. She looked up as he entered, hope flickering in her eyes. "I ended it," she said quickly. "I texted him. It's over." Ethan stared at her, exhaustion settling deep into his bones. "You think that fixes it?" "I'll do anything," she said. "Therapy. Transparency. I'll give you everything." He sank into the chair across from her. "I didn't want everything," he said softly. "I wanted honesty." They sat in silence, the space between them heavy with things that couldn't be unsaid. Ethan realized then that forgiveness wasn't a switch you flipped. It was a long road, and he didn't even know if he wanted to start walking it. Days turned into weeks. They talked more than they ever had, conversations raw and painful. Some nights ended in tears. Others in quiet understanding. The watch stayed off her wrist, tucked away in a drawer like a reminder of what had almost destroyed them. One evening, Ethan stood alone in the bedroom, holding it in his hand. He thought about the moment it buzzed in the dark, about how close he'd come to never knowing the truth. He placed it gently into the drawer and closed it. Laura appeared in the doorway. "I know you might never trust me the same way again," she said. "I just want you to know I'm here. If you still want me to be." Ethan looked at her, really looked at her, seeing both the woman he loved and the one who had hurt him. He didn't have an answer yet. Maybe he never would. But for the first time since that night, he felt clear. Let's take it one day at a time, he said. She nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. As they stood there together, uncertain and fragile, Ethan understood something painful and honest. Love didn't disappear in one moment. It eroded quietly, message by message, lie by lie. And whether they rebuilt or walked away, he would never ignore that quiet voice inside him again. The room was still. The truth was out, and nothing would ever feel the same.